In this lesson, we're going to learn how to create details using floating geometry. Alright, so I want to create just some very quick grips to this object. But doing so could be a little bit of a tedious task. If I wanted to create it right here in the handle, what I would need to do is create a bunch of segments right along the middle here, and I would have to extrude out those different polygons. I would have to inset those, extrude them out, bevel them, and then reshape them. And the segments might not work out all that great. And it's probably going to take just quite a bit of time. So what I can do is I can use floating geometry. Now with high poly models, we're not putting this into something like a game engine. Or something like that. This could go into a film. They could be grouped together. It could be attached to the object, and it will work out fine. High poly models are also used for generating normal maps for low poly game objects. And so floating geometry is a perfect way to just get those final details in a model that we don't necessarily want to model into something like this handle. So to get started with this, I'm going to show you really quickly how to create some really nice grips here. So let's go into our create panel, and I'm going to go to my geometry, and we're going to create a plane. So I'm going to left click and drag out a plane that's about the size of my grip here. So I'm going to go to something like so. Now before we convert this to editable poly, let's go ahead and make some adjustments to the length and width segments. So I'm going to take my length segments up to about 6. And then I'm going to bump up my width segments to about 18. So that way I have some nice square polygons here. Now if they're not perfectly square, you might do something like setting your length and your width to something like 40 and 120. So 40 will go into 120 3 times, 6 will go into 18 3 times. So I know that those are perfectly square polygons. So now with these polygons set here, now what I can do is come in and start to create the grips. So let's convert this to editable poly. Let's go into polygon mode, and let's select the polygons that we don't want to be grips. So I'm going to select this one on the corner. We'll skip the next 2 in the row. We'll select these, and then I'm just basically going diagonal in this way. So kind of creating like a checkerboard pattern. And I'm going to continue doing this all the way down. Now once we have all of these selected, let's delete those. So now I have all of these polygons set up here. Let's select all of these. And then I'm going to break them apart from one another. Now, looking at this, I can't necessarily break those. Let's go ahead and go to element mode really quickly. And if I select this one, you'll see that that's an element, that's an element. So they're already broken apart. So we're perfectly fine the way we are. So now, with this selected, let's apply a turbo smooth to those. And actually, let's pull this forward up against this. Applying a turbo smooth, you'll see it divides that, but it doesn't give us the shape of a grip. So what do we need to do? Let's go back down to edit poly. Let's go to border mode and select all the borders in this. And I'm going to hold down shift and drag that out. And it's going to create these cubes. Now with this, let's go back to Turbo Smooth, and you'll see that it creates very nice round looking shapes. So I can bump up my iterations to however high I believe I need to go. Let's go up to 3. And then now I have the ability to come in and position these on my grip. So because this is all one object, I can go to element mode. Let's show end result. And I can start to push these in up against my grip here for my model. However, looking at this, I don't really like the way that's going to work. I'm going to have to go into each individual one and push that up against the model here. So what I could do instead is I could use a bend modifier. So let's go to our modifier list and bend. Let's adjust our amount, and let's just start to bend these. Now, looking at this, it's not bending the way I want it to. Okay, let's change the axis, and let's go to our x-axis. That's the one I'm looking for. So I just kind of wanted to push that back to where these are going into that grip. That looks great. And let's add another bend modifier on top of this one. And then we're going to adjust its angle. Let's use the X as well. But instead of having it bend that way, let's rotate the gizmo. So rotate it 90 degrees. Let's turn on our snap. And once that's been rotated 90 degrees, I can adjust that angle, and notice how it's pulling those back. So it's giving me a nice little bend there. Okay, putting those back into that handle. So we're using modifiers to kind of help us out here. Let's turn off that gizmo, excuse me. And let me pull that up, kind of center that back up on the handle a little bit better. And there we go. So we've got these nice little details quickly created. Let's apply the material to it. And that would bake out really nicely into our handle. Now let's take this and mirror it over to the other side. Let's make sure that's set to Y. And then I'm just going to move that to where it penetrates on the other side of my object here. So nice little look there. Let me take both of these. Let me pull those down. They don't seem to be lining up as well as I would like them to. Okay, there we go. That looks great. So now I've got those grips on my machete. I've created some finer details on that. And, you know, just to kind of keep with adding fine details, sometimes we need to add just a little bit more. Okay, and we can't always use floating geometry. I know this is going a little bit off the subject here, but I really feel like we need some creases or something like that to kind of separate out the material. So we have this grip, and I want to create a segment right here. So let's go to edge mode. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab my Swift Loop tool. So Control-Shift-S. Let's create a loop right here. And that's going to give us a set of polygons right here. So let's hit 4 on the keyboard, select those polygons all the way around, hitting Shift. And then with this, I'm going to use Extrude. Let's extrude by local normal. And then I'm going to set this down. So we're going to take this way down here. And I'm going to pull that up to about 0.8 or so, negative 0.8, excuse me. And then I'm going to hit the plus to extrude that one more time, and then from here we'll hit OK, and then we're going to inset that on the inside. So I'm just creating some loops here, so that way it creates a nice little crease on the handle. So let's take a look at our Turbo Smooth, see what that looks like, and you see that we've created that final detail right there. So nice little separation, really nice and neat. Let's create another one up here. I just really feel like it needs that. So this time I can actually select just this loop right here, and I can use chamfer and to split that into two. Make that a little bit thinner. We'll hit OK, and then we'll go to polygon mode, do just like we did before. We'll extrude this. Should keep our settings from what we had before. Let's hit plus. OK, and then we'll inset that. And then we'll go to Turbo Smooth. You'll see that it created that nice little crease there. So a really nice set of details here. We've got some good looking grips there. Might do just a little bit more on the bend there. Now notice here that we had copied that over as an instance. I didn't realize that I had done that, but that's what I want. I want to bend that just a little bit more, so that way the tops of those aren't sticking out as much. So there we go. That looks great. So we've finished up the high poly model here. Now I want to take just one more lesson, because now what I want to do is I want to show you how you can make some final adjustments to any detail using what's called the FFD modifier or using soft selection. And we'll go ahead and we'll do that next.